what I saw was not Tucson. And it's not going to be what moves us forward.
A number of these individuals started doing vandalism throughout our downtown, breaking windows, using spray paint, setting dumpster fires.
I am grateful for the professionalism and restraint that our police officers showed last night in a very dangerous and volatile situation.
Even last night, that was part of the challenge. We had expectations that we were going to have a group of nonviolent protesters.
What happened last night at downtown Tucson was unacceptable.
The issue at hand is racism. It's not about going to businesses downtown, breaking stuff.
It is maddening. It is senseless. As a mother and as a fellow human being,
I can breathe.
hearing George Floyd's cries broke my heart.
A lot of people are forgetting what these protests are about. I'm going to remind you. Let me say his name. George Floyd. George Floyd. George Floyd.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Damian Alameda. It is another night of unrest around the nation, including here in Tucson over the death of George Floyd. Community leaders pledging for a night of calm after last night's chaos. We continue our team coverage this evening as protesters again march their way through southern Arizona. KOLD News 13's Jasmine Ramirez standing by in downtown Tucson. But first, let's go ahead and check in with our Megan McNeil, who has been marching alongside protesters this evening. Megan, what are you seeing out there?
Well, Damian, right now it's really more about what I'm hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and let you listen, because right now protesters are kind of finishing up the night. People had come here to the University of Arizona campus outside of the Old Main building. We're sitting down here listening to different speakers talk about the pain they're feeling, talk about the pain that they've experienced, hearing those eruptions, also talking about some inspirational things and where to move forward and where to go. Now, it seemed like things were kind of starting to wrap up, but it's looking like people are still trying to kind of determine what to do next. So everyone's just kind of standing around, still kind of chatting and trying to see what to do next. But earlier today, really, this has been an incredibly peaceful protest, I can say. We've been marching along with them all day. Well, actually, here, go ahead and listen. They're chanting, or they were chanting, I can't breathe. And that's been something that's been happening all evening, marching around downtown for a good 2.5 hours or so, going around downtown, going to TPD headquarters and marching around downtown. Looks like everyone is leaving now. I'm not sure exactly what's happening, if we're going down Congress. Careful, Jesse, with the rocks here. Kind of looks like we're leaving the University of Arizona campus. We're just going to go ahead and walk with people here for a little bit, kind of get a feel of what's going on. Again, we were just outside of Old Main here on the University of Arizona's campus. This protest has really kind of been started since about 6:30. People were walking, but once they got to the University of Arizona campus, just a little before 9, people really had been sitting around the whole time, kind of listening to speakers and listening to each other talk and express their feelings and express their pain and their emotions. And it's really been quite powerful to hear all the different stories, but it seems like everyone is back up and walking. I'll go ahead and let you listen. They're chanting George Floyd. So it looks like everyone is just kind of still walking, and we're just going to go ahead and follow with them, follow along. We'll, of course, keep you updated throughout the show, throughout the evening. So we're going to go ahead and leave you with this protest. Damian, back to you.
And downtown Tucson is very peaceful right now and very quiet compared to how it was during this time yesterday. Now, we are back on Broadway right now, which was hit pretty hard by the protest yesterday. As you can see, all of these businesses are now boarded up. You can still see some of the damage tonight, though. with this shattered window here. We have been walking around downtown Tucson and we've seen multiple patrols going around. Officers, up to 10 officers even on motorcycles driving through, but that's really all the activity going on so far. Many of these businesses have also hired private security guards to just keep watch throughout the night, but so far everything is very, very peaceful in downtown Tucson. Now also on Monday night there's going to be a peaceful candlelight vigil, and that is planned for 7 o'clock at the Dunbar Pavilion. In downtown Tucson, Jazz Ramirez, KLD News 13.
Well, as downtown Tucson cleaned up from last night's protest, we found this small but very significant sign of hope that was actually right behind Jasmine there. Volunteers painting the Benz Bells logo with the motto, "Be kind," on the plywood boards covering broken windows. They were also painting them on stores that hadn't been damaged in hopes of deterring protesters. One woman tells us the goal was to have this image flooding downtown before protests began this evening.
This is a message that we want to send to our community, and our goal is to get this done prior to sundown. We want to see this message all the way down Broadway, Congress, and 4th Avenue. We want the community to know that this is our voice.
She tells us 5 different teams were scattered around the downtown area today, putting up that message. Meanwhile, to our north in Phoenix, a third straight night of protests. This after the last 2 nights of peaceful protests quickly escalated. Last night, demonstrators marched to Phoenix Police Headquarters. Windows were smashed at businesses nearby. People were also seen shouting profanities and throwing debris at police officers. Those officers responded with flashbangs and pepper spray. Meanwhile, officials in cities across the country are urging people to stop the violence that has played out over this weekend. That plea especially important in the Twin Cities, where Minnesota's governor says protests have lost their initial focus. Daryl Forges reports from Minneapolis.
Coast to coast protests, New York, Chicago, and in Los Angeles, a quick turn from peaceful.
Stay strong, and if we stand together, we can overcome any oppression that comes our way.
To not peaceful. Cities across the country put curfews in place, like Atlanta, where protests raged Friday night.
For as bad as this looked on television, this was 10 times worse last night.
The destruction, the hate, that is not in the honor of Mr. Floyd.
Demonstrators Saturday blocked traffic in Austin, Texas. Cleveland police say they saw a mix of lawful and disorderly crowds, and protesters came as close to the White House as Secret Service would allow. While in Florida, President Trump and Vice President Pence watched the first launch of astronauts from U.S. soil in 9 years.
As the President has made clear, we will honor the memory of George Floyd. Justice will be served.
At the protest core, the death of 46-year-old George Floyd, an unarmed black man who died in custody of Minneapolis police Monday. One officer has been arrested and charged. Charges against the other 3 officers involved are likely to come.
The wheels of justice are moving, and now they're moving swiftly. But we need you to help us make sure that justice is done.
We are getting new details on a deadly shooting on Tucson's southwest side. 19-year-old Katia Molina has been identified as the victim of a shooting last Sunday in the area of South Valhalla and West Yidra roads. That's near Valencia and Camino Verde. Police have not said what led up to the shooting. If you do have any information, please call 911 or 88 Crime to remain anonymous. And happening now, fire crews are responding to a third alarm brush fire in the town of Cave Creek, north of Phoenix, the so-called Ocotillo fire. At this time, about 750 acres, and it is threatening structures. Some residents being evacuated from their homes. Several fire departments are working together to get this blaze under control. Air units are also responding. Officials have not said what caused the flames, but strong winds today definitely are not helping. And it was a windy night in southern Arizona. We saw some rain as well. Now the big thing we're watching for, of course, is the heat. Wind, rain, heat, a little bit of everything, but really it's just the inferno that gets getting turned up.
Yeah, but luckily temperatures fell a little bit today with the cloud cover and the rain that moved in. I'm sure that wind felt nice too. You could just smell the rain if you went out there, but wind speeds have definitely calmed down here for most of us, seeing those single digits from Sierra Vista, Tucson, Sells, Sassabee over into Nogales, pretty breezy over into Wilcox with gusts right around 20 miles an hour over the past hour. Now, we're not seeing any more rain on our radar. Yeah, you're seeing a little bit of green, but that's not rain actually hitting the surface here. Cloud cover still is in place, and we have another opportunity to see some more showers and thunderstorms as we head throughout your Sunday. But yes, it was hot once again today. We saw a high of 105 degrees, but temperatures did briefly drop into the mid-90s once that cloud cover thickened up and that rain moved in. So I'll break down what you can expect for your Sunday, plus that excessive heat warning that we still have in place through tomorrow. Everything you need to know coming up here in about 15 minutes.
Now to COVID-19, the outbreak. As more testing is done across Arizona, we're seeing more and more positive cases. According to the Department of Health Services, since the outbreak began, 19,255 people have tested positive across the state. That's up 790. 2,290 of those cases are right here out of Pima County, and that is up from 56 from yesterday. As far as deaths go, a total of 903 people statewide have died from COVID-19. That number up 18 from yesterday. In Pima County, we have seen 185 COVID-related deaths. That number has not changed since this time yesterday. Over 307,000 tests have been administered, and that number will indeed jump after today, which marks the last week of the Arizona testing blitz. The Department of Health says 5.6 of those tests have come back positive. Diagnostic testing has found the active virus in 6.7% of people. 3% of antibody tests, which show who has recovered from the virus, have also returned positive. Coming up, a new era in space exploration started today, the latest on the successful launch. Meanwhile, President Trump is postponing the G7 summit, when it will happen and what countries he says he wants to add to the invite list. All that next. And we are staying on top of late breaking news as protests continue here in Tucson right now, peacefully. We'll bring you the latest from the University of Arizona campus coming up.
Hey everybody, it's Megan McNeil. We're walking along with the protesters. We're now on University. We just passed 2nd, and you can hear those chants just growing louder and louder. See if you can hear any chants just growing louder and louder. Now, protesters were sitting around at the University of Arizona campus just outside of Old Main there for close to 2 hours, listening to each other have speeches and talk about their pain and their experiences. Then everyone kind of got back up and decided to walk back down University here. Not sure where they're going or what like the end point is, but we started to walk again. You can see some of those signs saying Black Lives Matter, 1312 class. There are a lot of different signs out here. You can just hear those chants as people are just really passionate. But I will say this protest is still incredibly peaceful. There really has not been any violence at all. So it's been incredibly peaceful and powerful to watch these people really express themselves. A couple instances of graffiti, but for the most part, truly a peaceful protest as people start kind of marching back down toward downtown. This is pretty much what it's been like all day. Earlier around 6 o'clock, this is the same scene of what you were seeing. Just people holding signs, chanting, still kind of walking around, and just expressing themselves in a peaceful way. I'll go ahead and just leave you with these chants. Reporting live, Megan McNeil, KOLD News 13.
As you watch that protest again, a peaceful protest through downtown Tucson, a sharp contrast to other visuals we have seen around the nation this afternoon and this evening. Thank you, Megan. We'll check back in with you soon. In the coronavirus outbreak, court will soon be back in session here in southern Arizona. Tucson City Court set to begin a phased reopening beginning on Monday. Protocols set by the Arizona Supreme Court will require staff and visitors to get their temperature checked before entering the building, wear a mask or a face covering, and socially distance to the extent possible. We're told there will be limited court access. Members of the public are being asked to arrive 30 minutes before their scheduled hearing times to accommodate the new screening and safety practices.
We saw a little bit of everything today in southern Arizona. Some sunshine, some of us saw some rain, that cloud cover, that wind. Yeah, it was a bit of an interesting day. Right now we are seeing quiet conditions, but I just want to show you our satellite radar looping over the past 6 hours. Storms just bubbling up from the south, working their way up towards the north. We definitely saw some strong storms in parts of Pinal and Maricopa County, all that lightning there. Dust storm warning was even in effect. We didn't have anything severe for us here in southern Arizona, but pretty interesting as far as our gusty outflow winds that were produced from those isolated thunderstorms that developed here. So as we take a look at the strongest recorded gusts today, want to focus in on the Tucson International Airport. Gusts exceeded 65 miles per hour. So it was very localized and very brief, but that is pretty significant here. For us here across southern Arizona, we saw gusts exceeding 30 miles an hour over into Marana. Similar conditions for you, Sierra Vista, Casa Grande at 37 miles an hour gusts right around 6 o'clock this evening. Now, we do still have some isolated storm chances in the mix for your Sunday, even rolling into early next week before we see dry conditions returning here throughout the rest of your 7-day forecast. And as far as our threats go, we're going to be looking out for the same thing that we saw today, some gusty outflow in, so that could absolutely cause some blowing dust, reducing visibility on the roadways. Lightning sparked wildfires here. As far as rainfall goes, not much. We only saw trace amounts at the airport, so about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch for the majority of us. Your temperatures outside right now, though, starting to cool down, lower 90s, and with those the storm clouds and the rain that moved in, we briefly saw those triple digits dip down into the mid-90s, so that was nice relief from the heat that we saw today. 74 degrees for you, Sierra Vista. We did top out 105 degrees in Tucson, 110 in Casa Grande, Phoenix at 111 degrees. So we still have that excessive heat warning in place through 8 o'clock tomorrow, as temperatures will be ranging anywhere from 103 to 108 degrees all across our area. So just a good reminder, drink plenty of water, avoid being outside for too long here. We will see cloud cover start to thicken up throughout the afternoon, similar to what we saw today. And we have another shot of seeing those storms. So hopefully that'll help cool us down a little bit here. As we kickstart the new month, we have a new 10% chance of seeing some isolated showers and thunderstorms once again with a high of 102 degrees. Those triple digits are sticking around through the majority of your week. So stay cool out there. That was a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll be right back after this break.
And we are going to join Megan McNeil live again as she walks alongside protesters in downtown Tucson. Megan, you've been talking about this all night, about the peaceful nature of this protest. And as we look behind you and around you, it appears that peaceful is still an apt description.
Sorry, Damien, I couldn't really hear you. Can you repeat that?
The scene around you appears peaceful. It appears to have remained peaceful throughout the evening. Just describe what you see right now.
Yeah, it's still incredibly peaceful. I'll be honest with you. It's just people chanting, just a couple signs, and really people just walking down 4th Avenue. Now, before we were back on 4th Avenue, you know, people were sitting down at the University of Arizona, just outside of Old Main there, and that was just incredibly peaceful. People were just sitting for 2 hours listening to each other talk. Here, pretty much the same thing. Still really peaceful. People just marching and protesting and having their voices heard. Really, I have not seen any instances of violence, a couple things of graffiti, but that really is not the majority of these protesters. That does not represent what everyone is doing out here. Really, everyone is just marching back downtown and having their voices being heard. We're going to get some more of this other chants. Now, Damien, I know you had a question about police presence. Really, it seems like it's kind of died down over the night. Whether they thought the protesters were kind of dying down or ending for the night. I'm not entirely sure, but the police helicopter seems to have gone away. We haven't seen that in a while. And along these side streets, there are a couple of police officers, but really, it's not like what we were seeing earlier in the night. So we'll see if that continues or not, or how that will go. But for the moment, everything's still incredibly peaceful. Damien?
Megan, I do appreciate your report. She'll be, of course, doing Facebook Lives on our Facebook page, KOLD, as well as KOLD.com. Megan, thank you so much. As the protests continue in downtown Tucson tonight, all in the name of George Floyd. Trending now today, NASA and Elon Musk's SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off, beginning a new era of commercial space flight from the historic launch pad at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The mission is the first from the U.S. with NASA astronauts in nearly a decade. Skylar Henry has the details.
Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed.
The manned SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launch Saturday from the Kennedy Space Center opened a new frontier in space travel. It's the first time a private company, Elon Musk's SpaceX, has launched astronauts in a commercially built spacecraft. Two veteran astronauts, Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, are on a 19-hour trip to the International Space Station.
It is a real treat to watch a U.S. rocket take off from U.S. soil with NASA astronauts on board. It's a great feeling.
Weather conditions cleared as liftoff approached during the afternoon. A first attempt was scrubbed Wednesday due to threat of lightning. President Trump and Vice President Pence viewed the departure from the Space Center in Florida.
You feel the shake over here. It's pretty amazing. A beautiful sight, a beautiful ship, too.
Spectators lined up in nearby towns for front and center views. NASA had asked people to watch from home because of the coronavirus pandemic. The space agency retired the space shuttles in 2011. Since then, it has paid the Russian space agency to ferry U.S. astronauts to and from the International Space Station. Skylar Henry, CBS News at the Kennedy Space Center.
The astronauts are expected to dock at the space station around 7:30 a.m. our time tomorrow. Now, out of 100 applicants, NASA selected 8 U.S. manufacturers to build ventilators to treat COVID-19. The high-pressure ventilator NASA has built is vital. NASA built its prototype in 37 days from supplies that are already in the supply chain. Those 8 companies will begin manufacturing right away. We'll be right back. And we continue to follow late-breaking news. What you are seeing right now is a live shot near Toole and 4th as police and protesters have now met one another face to face. This after Chief of Police Chris Magnus did say this afternoon in a press conference that he would deploy more police tonight, specifically downtown. This after last night's protests got out of control, violence damaging businesses and surrounding areas downtown with a cost of upwards of $200,000. And as you look at this so far peaceful demonstration, just remember, violence does not fix anything.